The fantasy season just ended. You know what that means? We got to look ahead to 2026. That's right. I'm looking ahead to the first round of 2026 fantasy football drafts. I'm going to try to predict how I think it's going to go, talk about how I think it should go. Of course, the caveat here is it's barely January. A lot is going to change. Free agency, the draft could certainly change this. But as of right now, this is how I would draft the first round of 2026 fantasy drafts. All right, let's jump right into it, and I feel pretty strong about the top two picks here. I'm going to start at the 101 with Bijan Robinson. This guy, back-to-back years with at least 365 touches. He's an absolute stud player, barely over 23 years old. Arguably the best non-quarterback offensive player in the entire NFL. This guy's an absolute monster. And I talked about when this guy was drafted, I said, I really think this is a running back who could be the first in history to go over 1,500 rushing and 1,000 receiving. He almost did it this year. I still think he's going to do it at some point in his career. There's really no worry here. I mean, whoever they bring in, unless they do something drastic and, hire the worst possible, like they bring back Arthur Smith or something, which that's not going to happen. I don't see how Bijan Robinson can fail next year. Not to mention, Tyler Algier is a free agent. I don't really think that's going to matter here, whether he re-signs or leaves. It doesn't matter. Bijan is the guy here. He's an absolute stud, one of the best players in real life, one of the best players in fantasy. I have no reason not to take Bijan Robinson with my first pick. And I know it kind of felt like a down year for Ja'Marr Chase, but let's be real. This guy only had Joe Burrow for very few games, and then he had, I can't even remember. How come I can't even remember who the original backup was? Jake Brown? Is it Jake Browning? Is that who it is? But anyways, this guy was great. Anytime him and Joe Burrow are healthy, Ja'Marr Chase is an absolute stud. He's still finished number one in terms of expected fantasy points among all wide receivers. We got to project Burrow and Chase staying healthy. We got to stop with this whole trying to project injury thing. Everybody who tried to project, injuries last year missed out on Christian McCaffrey and winning a fantasy championship. You got to go with if everything works out, what's going to happen. And if everything works out and Burrow plays all 17 and Chase plays all 17, he's probably going to be the top scoring wide receiver and one of the top scoring players in all of fantasy. Now, I will say from picks 3 to 6, I really am struggling about how to order these guys. But here's how I have it right now. At number 3, I'm going to go with Puka Nacua. He's been an absolute beast every year of his career. I'm going to assume Matthew Stafford comes back. I'm going to assume Sean McVay comes back. That's really the secret sauce here, right? As long as those guys are back, got to feel great about Puka. It gives you a very high weekly floor with a very high weekly ceiling. He is the Rams offense. He is the Rams passing game. Even with Devontae Adams taking all the touchdowns this year, Puka Nacua was still a stud. You really have you click draft on Puka Nacua at the number 3 pick, and you really feel totally fine, and you're probably going to be fine all year long. Now, you don't necessarily feel that way when you click draft at Christian McCaffrey at number 4, but again, as we saw last year, if you get a full 17 games of a healthy Christian McCaffrey, you potentially have the best player in fantasy football. You have to take that risk. Now, I will say, last year, I told everybody, draft Christian McCaffrey. Why aren't you drafting Christian McCaffrey? This year, I'm a little nervous about Christian McCaffrey. We're talking about a guy who's going to have close to 450 touches and somehow did stay healthy. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean he's going to get hurt in 2026. It's not like 450 touches equals guaranteed injury, but we do know this guy has a history of injuries. There is a little bit of risk here, but really, how far can we even drop Christian McCaffrey? Honestly, you could make a case for him being the 101 because, again, if he plays all 17 games, he probably will be the 101 because every year he has played every single game, he's finished as a number 1 or number 2 scorer in fantasy football. And then at number 5, I'm going to go with Jackson Smith-Njigba. And I'll be honest, this almost feels a little too low for JSN here, but it's can I put him over those other guys? I just don't think I can. Yes, it was a great year for JSN. Absolute breakout year. He's young. He's entering his prime. He could still definitely be ascending. He could still get better here. I don't know. I just have my doubts for some reason. Look, I got him at the 5th pick. It's not like I'm calling him a bust or anything, but I don't know. I just have my doubts that last year was the best we are going to see from JSN in this Seattle passing game with Sam Darnold. There's a chance Clint Kubiak is not back as the offensive coordinator. Obviously time will tell here. So Maybe this is too low on JSN. I don't really have a knock on JSN. He was great. There's no reason not to draft JSN, but I guess I just feel like the guys ahead of him have a tiny bit more upside. And then right behind him is where I'm going to have Jahmyr Gibbs. Again, this could absolutely change. We know they fired offensive coordinator John Morton. At the time I'm recording this, I don't know who the replacement is going to be. If it's somebody good, like if it's Mike McDaniel of the Dolphins, then yeah, I might have to move Jahmyr Gibbs up. But we did see last year, without Ben Johnson, he was still very good for fantasy, but we did see more games where he wasn't great for fantasy, where he wasn't as efficient running the football. He's always going to give you that pass catching, though, that explosive ability, tons of touchdown upside. So I can't drop Gibbs too low. And again, like I said, Puka Nacua, Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, JSN, you could draft these guys in almost any order, and I'm not really going to complain about it. I'll say I feel really good about the next three guys here. At number 7, I'm going to go with Devon Achane. I know Mike McDaniel gone. That could hurt a little bit here, but this guy is such a good player, such an explosive runner, a good pass catcher. I don't really think whoever the new coaching staff is going to come in and say, like, yeah, we don't really want to use Devon Achane. No, they're still going to use this guy. He gives you such, incredible weekly upside. He's a guy on any play, could take it to the house, take any pass to the house. Another guy, if you got Devon Achane, you just click draft and you just feel so good about it because like the floor is so high, the ceiling is so high, you really don't have to worry. And then it's time to put some respect on James Cook. I mean, last year we were saying, like, why is James Cook going so low? Like, so many people were talking about, like, oh, regression, touchdown regression, touchdown regression. Yeah, okay, he regressed a little bit in the touchdown department, but come on. He still scored a ton of touchdowns. The Bills have gone from a pass-heavy offense to a run-heavy offense the last couple of years. And unless they do something drastic at wide receiver, which at this point they've proven they're not going to do something drastic at wide receiver, they're probably going to be a run-heavy offense again in 2026. James Cook is a stud player, was great this year, led the league in rushing, always has the ability to rip off a long run. Despite Josh Allen being there, still gets plenty of touchdown potential. It's not like Josh Allen takes all the touchdowns. I do wish he was more involved as a receiver. It's kind of weird that he's not because that's what he was in college, but he's such a great player, such a great runner, such an explosive player, and he's in such a good offense. You got to take a chance on James Cook. He needs to finally put some respect on his name, put this guy in the first round of fantasy drafts finally. And then in the number 9 pick, another just solid guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Another guy, when you click draft on Amon-Ra St. Brown, you don't stress, right? There's no anxiety, nothing. You click draft, you're like, I know he's probably going to play almost every single game because he's a warrior. Even if he gets a little banged up, he's going to play through it. He's going to be fine. He's probably going to give me a high floor every single week. He's going to give me multiple weeks a year where he has a high ceiling. Like, you just feel so good, warm, and fuzzy and safe when you click draft on Amon-Ra St. Brown. I can't put him higher, though, because, again, he doesn't have that kind of, like, league-breaking upside that some of the guys I've already talked about do. But he has such a high floor with a good enough ceiling that the back half of round 1, getting Amon-Ra St. Brown just feels comfortable and good. Like hot cocoa on a cold night or something. And then rounding out the top 12, I'm going to be honest, these guys feel very like, do they even belong here or not? And let's start with number 10. I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor. And it's crazy to think, like, what do you mean, Jonathan Taylor, does he belong here or not? This guy was winning leagues. Yes, he was winning leagues till Daniel Jones got hurt. And then at the end of the season, I think it kind of went under the radar a little bit. But the Colts went from having one of the easiest schedules to start the year to one of the hardest schedules. And Jonathan Taylor was still good. There was nothing wrong with Jonathan Taylor, but we certainly saw him take a step back with that tougher schedule without Daniel Jones. We know Daniel Jones coming off that Achilles injury, probably not going to be ready to start the season. So we're looking at probably Riley Leonard, I guess. I'm definitely not Phillip Rivers, thankfully. So that might hurt JT a little bit here. And again, we don't know what kind of Daniel Jones we're going to get. I mean, he is a free agent as well, but I'm going to assume he's coming back to the Colts. So I just think there's a little bit of question marks here for Jonathan Taylor. Not to mention he had over 400 touches this year. So that's always makes me a little bit nervous when these guys have taken so much, such a beating for a year and stayed fully healthy. It's like, can they do that 2 years in a row? I mean, they can, but there is that risk there. So I feel like JT, I don't feel good enough to draft him early at the end of the first round. Sure. And then right behind him, a name that you're probably like, where is CeeDee Lamb? Well, here is CeeDee Lamb. And again, this could go either way. If George Pickens somehow does not re-sign with the Cowboys or they don't franchise tag him and it's just CeeDee Lamb again, yeah, okay, CeeDee Lamb right back up, top 5 pick, top 3 pick. But we saw with George Pickens last year, even down the stretch when both were healthy, there were weeks where Pickens was just better than CeeDee Lamb. He capped CeeDee Lamb's upside. It's not like CeeDee Lamb is getting all the targets again. Still, CeeDee Lamb is such a good player in this Dallas offense with Dak Prescott. I don't think I can drop him out of the first round. I'm on the fence about doing it, but there's not really anybody I could put over CeeDee Lamb. Let's be real here. And then at pick 12, I'm going to have Drake London. If we just take the games where he was healthy with Michael Penix Jr., he was great last year. He was trending to be a potential top 8, top 5, fantasy wide receiver. Then he had that PCL injury and had to play with Kirk Cousins, and that was the end of that. Again, Michael Penix Jr. may not be ready to start the season, but you got to think he'll be back early enough to where Drake London, yeah, he may get off to a slow start, but he should be rolling by the end of the season. But I'll also say this. I know I'm typically like anti-early tight end. I'm okay with putting Trey McBride at the 112. Honestly, this guy is starting to feel like the new version of Travis Kelce, where you can just pencil him in for over 100 catches, 1,100, 1,200 yards, 7+ touchdowns. Yeah, like it's starting to feel like maybe McBride is a tight end you can take in the first round. So when we're getting to this pick, there's not like a ton of guys that I feel like strongly have to be here. So if I was on the clock, I would probably mostly lean Drake London because, again, I do have trouble pulling the trigger on a tight end early. Totally fine if you wanted to go McBride here as well. Now, really quick, I want to talk about a few players that just missed the cut but could be on here, some point later in the season. Let's start with Breece Hall. This is a guy that could potentially skyrocket into the first round of fantasy drafts. A free agent this year. Got to think he's not coming back to the Jets. If he signs to a smash spot where he's the guy in a good offense, yeah, he could absolutely vault into the first round. So we'll have to see what happens there. And then Ashton Jeanty, another guy if the Raiders bring in, a good coaching staff and bolster that offensive line this year, then that would be big for Ashton Jeanty. I can make a case for putting him at the end of the first round. And a name that I didn't talk about that has just been like a no doubt, no brainer first round pick for years now, Justin Jefferson. Again, on the fence here. I mean, how good can we feel? Probably going to be another year of J.J. McCarthy, unless the Vikings do something drastic like sign a big free agent or trade for a quarterback, or then they're not going to draft one probably. Then, yeah, we're probably looking at another year with J.J. McCarthy and Jefferson. And after what we saw last year, just can't quite put him in the first round. He's probably still like an early second rounder for me, but first round feels too high. All right, there you go. That's how I have the first round of fantasy drafts going right now. Drop a comment. Let me know what you agree with, disagree with. How do you have the first round going? Who would you put in? Who would you take out? Let me know. And if you missed any of the content we dropped for you, we're dropping a video every week right now in 2026. Don't worry. You can catch up and find them in our playlist right here.